All right, let's get started. Good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to spend this time with us. We're going to be talking today about 5 recruiting strategies that you can start leveraging today. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping tips here. First of all, thank you again. We really appreciate it. Secondly, we absolutely love questions. In fact, it'll be super awesome if you can keep this interactive. Ask us as many questions as you might like using the Q&A panel in Zoom. We'll certainly take questions at the end and we'll keep time for questions, but we'll also take questions right in the middle of the conversation if they're pertinent to what we're talking about. And lastly, this presentation, this actual recording, they will all be shared afterwards. So don't worry about taking any screenshots or notes. All this content will be automatically sent over to you. All right, with that, let's start talking about 5 recruiting strategies that you can start leveraging today. I'm delighted to be joined today by Maria. Maria, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hi, everybody. Good to be here. My name is Maria Zekman. I'm a senior solutions consultant with Sense, and I'll be helping walk through the tools that we have available to you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Maria. And my name is Pankaj. I am one of the founders of Sense. And before starting Sense, which was a little over 6 years ago, I ran staffing and recruiting firms for 15 years. So very much come from your world. And before we get started, here is just a little, little primer on Sense itself. Like I said, we started Sense a little over 6 years ago with the singular vision of building an engagement platform that was designed specifically for the recruiting industry. We've stayed really true to that mission. We have nearly 700 customers today, every single one of which is a recruiting firm. So we've learned, every kind of possible use case, integration, just rules in your business, all of those questions along the way. We also work with 6 of the top 10 largest global staffing firms, which tells you that we've already put in a lot of work in designing integrations and middleware and so on and so forth. And then at least right here in the US, we track the number of largest recruitment firms, which are companies with over $100 million in revenue, and Sense is already live with a third of those companies. We're also SOC 2 Type 2 certified, which is a rarity for a company of our size, and it tells you how seriously we take our customers' data. Along this journey, we've raised around $90 million in capital from some of the best blue chip investors that you can hope to have on your board, including companies like Axel, Google, and SoftBank. Now, the Sense engagement platform rests on 3 different pillars: growth, retention, and automation. The idea behind growth is how can we enable more top of the funnel for you? Take all the candidates that have been sitting in your database, reactivate them, make sure that they're available to you, make sure that they're completely sanitized. You always have the latest information on them available. Are they looking for a new job? What kind of money do they want? When will they be available? But essentially, how do we increase top of the funnel, which leads to more placements, which leads to revenue, which directly impacts your top line? Retention is about helping you make more money from the people you already have. So just making sure that we can increase the lengths of assignment of people who are working for you, retain them, redeploy them into a subsequent assignment after they finish their first one, help you increase Glassdoor scores, net promoter scores, however you're tracking your consultant happiness. And then automation is all about taking busy work away from your recruiters. Recruiters today spend a large percentage of their time in prospecting and scheduling and screening. And how do we automate that? So they're making 30, 40, 50, in some cases, even twice as many placements as they're making today, making more money for themselves as well as for the company. So those are the 3 key tenets behind the Sense platform. Now, what are some of the key challenges that we are trying to solve? Why did we start the product in the first place? Here are 3 or 4 challenges that I'm going to talk about, and I hope this resonates with all of you. Hopefully all of these are challenges that you see in your world, or at least some of them. So the first one is just the fact that we have a very inefficient pipeline when it comes to recruiting. Oftentimes we'll see our customers start with hundreds of candidates at the top of the funnel, and 90% of them would drop off by the time you're even submitting them to a hiring manager, and even fewer people as you take them through the interview process, and then eventually 1 or 2 people will get hired. So other than the 1 or 2 people that get hired, everybody gets dropped off through this pipeline, and those are the people that you essentially can keep in touch with, you can nurture, you can hire them for other roles that you might have open, and we'll talk about strategies on making sure that you can stay in touch with people en masse. The second is not using your own database. If your firm has been around for 5, 10, 15 years, you've probably spent hundreds of thousands of pounds in making your database by getting people from job boards and Monster and Career Builder or Indeed and LinkedIn, whatever you're using today. So it's a very expensive resource. However, recruiters don't go back to it often because they often think of this database as stale, as outdated. If we're able to fix that for you, where we're able to make this the freshest source of data of candidates, so this is the one place where the information is most current. This is the one place where you're automatically reaching out to candidates and asking them, are you still available for a job? How much money are you looking for? When would you be available? If all of that information was available, hopefully recruiters will be using this first. And your cost per hire that typically today is over £1,000 per candidate would just continually keep falling down. The third is around retention. In our industry, we are notorious for the fact that over 90% of the people will only do one assignment with you. They'll work with you for one temporary assignment, could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and oftentimes people will leave you after that. So how do you create enough engagement with them that they want to keep working with your company, they get redeployed, so that the next time you do this, your cost per hire on this candidate is zero and you can start making a lot more margin. And then lastly, it's all about making sure, can you make your recruiters more productive? Several of our customers do a time study where they'll pick up a group of recruiters and they'll essentially study what they're doing for 30 days straight. Now, this isn't to find out if you're wasting your time browsing or listening to music. This is really to find out where you are actually spending a bulk of your time. And most customers come back realizing that 60 to 70% of a recruiter's time is spent in prospecting candidates, screening them, scheduling them for interviews with themselves, scheduling them for interviews with hiring managers, and oftentimes rescheduling them. That's 60 to 70% of their work. And you'll see here on how quickly we can automate almost 90% of that. So those are 4 top level problems that I think about when I think about recruiting businesses. And hopefully some of these resonate with you as well. Now, there is one other set of challenges when it comes to the technology stack itself, which is that the technology stack itself in the recruitment business is very fragmented. My guess is that most of you on the webinar today are probably looking at some of these point solutions, and you probably have some of them. You probably have a way to collect referrals. You probably have a way to do some surveys. You maybe use a texting platform. You maybe use some kind of an NPS solution to get net promoter scores, so on and so forth. My guess is that several of these solutions also do not integrate with with your applicant tracking system. They certainly don't talk to each other if you're using 7 different point solutions to do this. So one of the biggest advantages with Sense is that everything that you see here and a lot more can be all done with a single system. It'll absolutely talk to your system of record, your applicant tracking system. So here is your system of record. And here is Sense, which is a system of engagement that sits on top of it and bidirectionally communicates, which means every single piece of information, every single piece of communication and engagement will always become part of your system of record. If a recruiter leaves your company tomorrow, they just don't walk away with all of that information. Every text message that they've exchanged with the candidate, every chatbot conversation that they've had with a candidate, everything is stored and written into their system of record. All right, so given that these are the problem statements we're talking about, how do you think we can solve them? Well, in our mind, AI and automation are the answer for these things. This is what the 700 of our customers are doing today with some spectacular results. And before we get into individual pieces of the platform, at an overall level, here is how you can leverage AI and automation. These are 5 top level things to think about on where your business can be impacted. First of all, the idea is to personalize your candidate's journey from hello, the very first time you're talking to this candidate, whether it's on your website or whether it is because they applied to a job, you're posting on your website or a job board or whatever the case might be, to you hiring them. How do you personalize this journey so you give this candidate a consumer grade experience? They get the same experience from a recruiting firm as they get from Amazon.com. You remember their preferences, whether they want you to text them or email them, whether they want you to reach out after hours or during work hours, and you can do that at scale for hundreds of thousands of candidates. Second, can you leverage AI-based chatbots to, first of all, have this process keep going 24/7? If there are candidates who want to talk to a recruiter at 7 p.m., and obviously your recruiters are not available, but a chatbot is. Oftentimes in the healthcare industry, people don't get breaks at the same time as you would get in an office job or in a desk job, but you can still keep talking to a natural language-based conversational assistant or an AI chatbot. Increasing recruiter productivity, we'll talk a lot more about that. And then one of the other things we'll talk about is enterprise grade reporting. This is one thing our customers talk about a lot, just doing things, you're not going to be able to change things if you can't measure how effectively you're doing that. So we'll walk you through an entire suite of analytics, which is probably the kind of metrics your CEO is looking for. Number of people that you have on assignment, their gross margin, when are they finishing, what's your average length of assignment, how many people are you redeploying, so on and so forth. But practically any really piece of analytics that you want, because we'll integrate with your entire system of record. And then lastly, we are maniacal about ROI. So we will very clearly show you right within the product, how many man hours are we saving your team? How many brand new placements are we making for your team? And you can do the math from there. You know the amount of money that you make on a single placement. So if Sense is generating 10 new placements for you, you know the amount of gross margin we're adding to your bottom line. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to start breaking it down and start talking about how the platform functions using some of the solutions we've built. We'll firstly start with a chatbot, most simply, that's how it's more simply known, or an AI-powered conversational recruiting assistant. Even though I say so myself, this is the product our customers are most excited about. This is the product that helps you talk to thousands of people at the same time. It gives everybody a consistent experience, which means it removes any bias from your hiring. If any of your recruiters, could have any unconscious bias about, yeah, I don't think this kind of a person can do this job, or this job is more suited for a female versus a male, or any kind of bias that you might see, that will automatically get removed. The chatbot will talk to every single person, and as long as that candidate is able to give you the right answers to your screening questions, they will get passed on into the recruiting process, and you can start working with them. You'll also see that all of this information, the conversation you're having with the chatbot is written back into your ATS. So it becomes part of your candidate record, becomes part of your system of record. All of these chatbots are no code, which means anybody in your company can build and deploy them within minutes. This is a huge advantage because typically chatbots require days of coding and engineering effort, but not with our platform. We'll show you how easy and quick it is to build these chatbots and deploy them. Now, chatbots automatically come integrated with a scheduling platform that we built from the ground up. And what's the reason behind a scheduling platform? Well, if you're asking somebody screening questions, hey, are you authorized to work in the UK? How much money do you want? When are you available to start? Will you subject yourself to a COVID screening? Whatever the pre-screening questions you want to ask people, if somebody answers all of them correctly, you want to be able to say, you seem like a great fit for this role. Please pick a time here that works for you to talk to one of our recruiters. This is putting the power back in the hand of the candidate itself. They are picking a time that works for them. Chances are they will show up. It isn't one of the times that only works for your recruiter, and those are the kind of times that are more likely to get rescheduled. So we'll show you how scheduling works and how it seamlessly integrates with either G Suite or Microsoft Teams or Office 365, whatever it is that you're using for scheduling. And then lastly, we'll also show you how you can use a chatbot to essentially refresh your database. If you have hundreds of thousands of people sitting in your database, you haven't talked to them in a long time, how can you use them to essentially sanitize your data, bring it up to speed, and then make that the first stop for all of your recruiters? So I hope that makes sense. Please ask us as many questions as you have, like I said before. But with that, I'm going to pass this back on to Maria to walk you through what a chatbot looks like, what the end user experience is, and what the admin experience is. Maria, over to you.
Thank you so much. As we walk through chatbots, what I'm going to start with is actually the candidate experience, and then we'll build it back and talk through the different types of use cases and how you actually structure a bot, since that is very unique to Sense with the ease and usability. And I'll answer any questions as they come through. What you're looking at here is, excuse me, what you're looking at here is my cell phone. So typically a candidate is going to be on the go and receiving this chatbot. Our chatbots, we have two variations. One is going to be what we call a passive or an inbound bot that sits on your website and waits for candidates to come through. The other types of bots that Pankaj walked through are going to be outbound. They are proactive. Perhaps somebody applied and they are getting immediately pre-screened, or somebody is just in your database and you're trying to re-engage and gather information. Both of those are proactive, so I'm sending them out. So in that case, we may receive that chatbot via email or text message. In this example here, we've received it via email, and we can go in and walk through that bot. This email and all the communication that is sent out through Sense at all is all going to be branded to your company and your verbiage. So everything is going to feel and sound like you. When we walk through the chatbot here, it's going to load up. If it were a text message bot, it would just be in your native texting app, and you walk through that. Here, we're going to ask some basic information. So we're collecting data. And I'm going to enter in a postal code. From there, we're going to ask some basic information. This is really any question you want to ask. You can structure and go ahead and ask that. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But as you can see, we have a variety of types of questions you can include, such as fill in the blank, yes or no, or even additional options such as multiple choice. So you're going to have the ability to really get at whatever you are looking for your process and what's vital for you to know up front or later on. This also allows your team to save time. You don't need to spend time collecting this data. This is not time that you need to be spent pre-screening an individual. As you walk through, you're going to be able to catch them on the back end when everyone is already pre-screened and you're only talking to the individuals who meet your basic criteria. This could really save you a ton of effort and allow you to reallocate your time to revenue-driven activities or finding the right fit, rather than sifting through many unqualified individuals or mining data that is incorrect, perhaps. So as we go through this bot, you'll of course have different options. And at the end, we can also include a summary so that your candidate knows what they answered. If they need to make a modification, they can certainly do so. And finally, let's say everything goes well and we want to go through the process and move them through further along. What we can do is actually prompt them to select a time with your recruiters and book time on their calendar. As you can see here, I can select an available time, and this will actually create a calendar meeting on both the candidate and recruiters calendars for them to arrive at. We can auto insert, a Zoom link or a phone number that they need to call. We can create, rules around the availability. So for example, if you are available at 8 p.m. at night, that doesn't necessarily mean you are open to taking these types of calls. So perhaps you want to set your availability Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a 10-minute buffer in between each meeting. So we can set up those rules and help you really manage your day. So now that you've seen a sample bot and what that would work through, if it was fully text, it would just be the same conversation back and forth, it fully text message. But let's walk through another example. So if we were looking at an inbound bot, so it's just sitting on your website, we're waiting for candidates to engage. Perhaps they're looking at your job board and things along those lines. This is going to allow us to be able to see who comes through. We'll have analytics associated to this, of course, and capturing all of the information, but then they can self-serve. So maybe there's frequently asked questions that just come up all the time, and you need to be able to address those quickly. We can have a help section where we can redirect to links or common answers and things along those lines. Additionally, what we can also do is help with job matching. So perhaps somebody is just browsing or they're unaware of what they can enter in or what they can do. Instead, they can engage with the bot and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. This job matching is what Sense calls Discover. This is where we are matching either in a chatbot or in our automation, where we reach out to our candidate pool and engage them and prompt them with jobs that they might be a fit for. So we can go ahead and get started. And from here, you'll enter basic information. And then at the end, it will match up to jobs available and posted in your database and on your job board. And Pankaj, I see you've joined us. Do you have any questions that are coming through?
Yeah, there are a couple of very interesting questions that came in, which I was sure would just get answered automatically, but I would take them on. One, we got a question that said, can you customize chatbot responses based on specific roles that a candidate may qualify for? Or is it generalized questions? Well, the answer to that is you absolutely can customize them. In fact, the idea is to not use generalized questions at all. So you could absolutely have a flow in your chatbot where, depending on the role that the candidate is looking for, we can ask them completely different questions. If somebody is looking to be a picker packer, you can ask them questions like, can you lift 20 kilograms a day? Can you stand on your feet for 8 hours a day? But if somebody is trying to be a healthcare provider or a IT or a professional consultant, then you can ask them questions like, how many years of experience do you have in this kind of development? How much money do you want? So on and so forth. So you can absolutely do that. And then the other question I got was, how will the bot know which job I'm interested in? Is that info passed on from the URL I click in this email? A great question. So first of all, we absolutely can do that. You can absolutely send out an email. When you send the bot outbound, as Maria was talking about earlier, you can absolutely do that. So you can say, for this particular role that I have open, here are the 30 people or 100 people that I want the bot to reach out to. These people meet my criteria already. I know from my database that they live in London or within 30 miles of London, they want this much money, so on and so forth. So you can ask them very specific screening questions for that job. But what she's showing you right now is, if you were actually just talking to a candidate who walked into your website, you have no idea about who this person is, this is the first time you're saying hello to them, then based on the information they're providing you, like here, they're saying, I want to be a Java developer, Sense can actually do automated job matching. So you can see the job matching that Maria is showing you right now. And based on that job matching, we've actually shown this person, hey, we think we have 8 jobs for you. And Maria, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you so much. So basically what you are seeing here is the executed job match. This could also be included in our automation, which I'll talk about a little bit later in our demonstration. But as you can see, these chatbots are fully flexible depending on your company needs and what you want to include. Think of all of these components as different levers you can pull in your engagement strategy with your candidates. And it might be a combination of all 3 that we talked about. So from here, what I think would be most important, and I think some of the questions are really tying into, is how is it structured? What flexibility do I have? So I'm going to jump in on our back end. This is where the configuration happens and where a chatbot is actually set up and used to execute. So what we're looking at here is our conversations area. This is administrative. And then this is where the chatbot flows are set up. So this is really just the topics and all the questions that you're going to ask. So when we jump into an example flow, think of this as really choose your own adventure. As you move through the chatbot, you may have different paths that candidate needs to go through. Or depending on the answer they provide, they may have a different series of questions that result out of that selection. So in our example here, what can we help you with? You're looking for a job. Great. Now we're going down this flow and this path. If they answer differently, they may go down a different flow. And with this, every question is configurable to what you'd like it to say. We can pull in fields. We can have validation, for example, making sure that they have a valid postcode and we recognize the location or the correct number of digits for their phone number, or even if we're asking, when are they available to start working? We can ensure that they're entering a future date rather than last week by accident. So as we go through, you can have different paths of maybe passing or failing if it is a pre-screen. So for example, I have a certain path of questions and answers that designate somebody as passing or qualified for a certain role that they've applied for. At that point, when we send that out, think of that as your 24/7 recruiting assistant. So I may be motivated to apply at 12 a.m. At night. You are not necessarily available or eager to talk to me at that moment, but the chatbot is. So that chatbot is going to send out immediately upon somebody applying and coming through into your system as a submission associated to that job. And then they'll be asked these preliminary questions. And typically what we're seeing from the candidate space is they're eager to answer those questions because it moves them along in your process versus your competitor who may not have this 24-hour recruiting assistant. They're sitting there waiting till the next day, hopefully that somebody might respond to them. In this case, they're taking that ownership on them. They answer those questions that are necessary. And from there, they can even be prompted, as I showed earlier, to schedule time with a recruiter. Think of the impact that that has on a candidate. They may stop applying to other competitors at that point because they got a meeting already. And if they did not, unfortunately, meet your criteria, you can redirect them to a different job board or just softly move them along in your process. So as you see here, you'll see little plus signs. These plus signs are what allow you to create these different types of bots and what you want it to say. Maybe you want to ask a question, add a message, you're almost done, 2 more questions, whatever you want to say there. We can jump to different components of the bot depending on their answers, giving you a lot of flexibility. Or we can add notifications. So we can provide your internal staff a notification when somebody passes or when somebody completes it, and so on. We can include summaries. We can even include that job matching and meeting functionality. So as you can see, and what I've walked through so far, you have a lot of flexibility, and we can really inject a chatbot at different stages of your process. Perhaps that's up front when we're just canvassing our database, very early on at the top of the funnel when it's just on our website and we don't even know this individual coming through, as well as later on when they have applied and we want to make sure that they're a good fit. So from there, I'm going to pass it back to Pankaj and share the next stage.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria. The other question we got while Maria was going through the chatbot was, is there an optimum number of candidates to be included in these journeys? And the question is not really. I mean, we today have people who would send out a journey to 10,000 candidates, for example, and that's totally fine if what you're looking to do is a mass update in your database. If you're trying to go, hey, sorry, we haven't talked to you in 90 days, or it's been a while since we talked to you. What kind of job are you looking for? Are you still in the market? When will you be available next? So on and so forth. You can absolutely reach out to thousands and thousands of people at the same time. If you're trying to do something super specific, where you're saying, I just have a new job that came open, I'm reaching out to you because I think you're a great fit. And maybe that's the kind of message that only goes out to 10 or 15 people. And those 10 or 15 people can then very much respond to you. So yeah, with that, let's talk a little bit about how do you even create automations. So automation is essentially taking a series of tasks and putting them in a cadence where they will happen automatically. My golden rule is, if you see anybody in your company, a recruiter, a salesperson, an account manager, doing any task 5 or more times, it is a great candidate to automate. These could be simple things as, hey, just a reminder, you're starting your job tomorrow, or hey, you just finished your first day. How was your first day? How was your 7th day? Happy birthday, happy anniversary. Can we get a little survey from you? Can we get a referral from you? Can you fill in this net promoter score that we want from our people? So on and so forth. So there are essentially dozens and dozens and dozens of automations you can build. And no joke, one of our customers posted on LinkedIn yesterday that they now have 240 different live automations. I'm not going to ask you to boil the ocean on day one, but that's how powerful this product is. And then, of course, you can also use the automation product to reach out to candidates en masse to make sure that you can keep them completely up to date. So let's get back into the platform and have Maria walk you through how you can set up automations.
Thank you so much. So as we talk through the different levers that you can pull, this is where we're setting up our automations on the back end. I want to reiterate just that this is an administrative side. So from a recruiter perspective, certainly you would be reaping the benefits of all the automation being set up and taking pieces of your workflow off of your plate. However, you don't need to be in here on a constant basis modifying it. This is typically reserved for a super user and administrator on your organization. So let's focus on what we call journeys. Journeys are going to be really your goals for communication. So do I want to reach out to existing candidates in my system to re-engage with them? Am I speaking to really individuals who are currently working and I have a flow associated to that? And then the individual pieces of communication is what we call touch points. So touch points could be an email, a text message, a survey, a chatbot. Those are the different levers that you're pulling in your day-to-day communication. What you see here on our page is your different journeys that you can set up. You have unlimited amounts of journeys and touch points that you can set up and use. We also do provide you help during our implementation to help you walk through and not reinvent the wheel, but certainly you have full control over the content and what's being shared. So let's go through our examples here. So when we talk about, our automations and where we would insert them in our process, really they can touch every bit of your process, from top of the funnel from sales lead generation and nurturing those customers or prospects, all the way to redeploying a candidate that's coming off of an assignment. Because we are getting the data from your ATS, so from your system of record, we're getting all of that information and being able to act on it. So your team is really doing what they do best. They are managing the records in your database. They are moving people through the process, assigning people, and so on. And what we are doing is reading that information and taking appropriate action where you see fit. So some areas where we see customers implement right away is what we call a passive to active journey. This is a journey that's going to allow you to reach out to candidates already in your system that you may want to be re-engaging with. Perhaps the criteria that you set up to set up the rules of who receives this communication, which is what we call audience, is people who haven't been talked to or have no notes or updates on their record in 90 days. People who are no longer working or never have been on assignment. And then from there, any other statuses or anything else you may be using that is custom to your system. And from there, you would set up the content. So perhaps I want to have a little bit of knowledge marketing, share our newsletters on a regular basis, or a drip campaign, reaching out to candidates, asking if they are interested. What we've heard, right, in general, right, it takes several touch points to get somebody engaged. This is taking those touch points off of your plate manually and executing on them. And then from there, your team can be made aware of any responses and anything like that. All responses will be logged automatically in your database so that you can reference it at any time and be aware. And all of the items that were sent will also be logged for you to be aware of. So let's jump into one example here. So perhaps we wanted to include job matching, as I talked about earlier. I'm reaching out to candidates who we haven't talked to in quite some time, and I want to get their attention. What's a better way to get their attention than to reach out, say, hey, Maria, I have 10 jobs that might be a fit for you. No other competitor is going to be offering that. They're maybe reaching out one-off when they remember to do so, but this is going to give you that leg up and perhaps garner their interest at that point. Every touch point or every piece of communication has the same structure. So we have our content. So what do you want to say? This text block can be very customizable. So it can be a very simple email or text message that feels like the recruiter typed it up and went ahead and sent it. That's important so that it feels very personalized. We can, of course, include your signature imagery or any branding that you'd like. I'll show you another example in just a moment. of the capabilities of our email editor so that you can make these really as dynamic as you need to. So there's a time and place to be very marketing oriented, and there's a time and place to make it look like I typed it up real quick. And then from there, we have our basics. This is going to allow you to be able to categorize your communication. So are these marketing communications, or are these individual pertaining to a placement or day-to-day tasks? Because somebody could potentially not want too many marketing communications, and they may want to opt out of that, but they still want to stay informed on the things that are important to their potential placement and things along those lines. So we give you that flexibility to categorize your communication. And then from there, you'll also be able to define who that communication is coming from on your team. We never want it to feel like Sense is the one sending anything. It is always coming from your team, from your email address, from your phone numbers. So we want it to be continuous and really seamless to your communication and ours. As we walk through some other examples of our touch points, I do want to point out our marketing grade email structure. So as I mentioned, you can have a very simple email when the time is right, but you can also include images, buttons, surveys, icons, videos, whatever you want to structure, you can use here. So you may be spending dollars right now on another tool in the repertoire, and this could eliminate that tool to allow you to have it all in one space and one vendor. I want to pause if there are any questions that have come through.
Maria, there have been a couple of questions, but I'm answering them in the chat. So
okay, perfect.
We can certainly keep going.
Okay, thank you so much. So as we walk through, as I've mentioned several times, these are all just different levers. So you have your surveys that you may want to reach out, or chatbots. We've talked about chatbots, but let's jump into a survey example. So a survey could be just a series of questions that you may want to reach out to somebody. As you can see here, we're structuring our email example with your branding. We'll pull in fields to make it personalized so that it doesn't feel too generic with an individual. And then we can include a series of questions. In this case, we have a multiple choice question that's very simple because we are trying to reach out to candidates and garner their interest. So in this case, we are asking, hey, would you like us to reach out with new opportunities? If that individual says no, you can have a simple response with no worries, we'll reach out in 6 months and check back in, or whatever you want to say. But let's say they said yes. We want to capitalize on that timing. And that yes could have come, at midnight, as I mentioned. So your team is not necessarily available at that moment, but Sense is. So we want to be able to capitalize on that timing, get those questions answered that are vital to you to move them through the process. So in this case, we can ask anything you'd like, but you can ask, we're really super excited for you to work with us. What's your current job title? When are you available to start working? And what's your current contact method? What would be your preferred method? And so on and so forth. Whatever's vital to you off the bat. And this information will flow back into your database for you to then take appropriate action on. Some other examples that I do want to point out is going to be other steps in your process. So we talked about a little bit of that top of the funnel, but certainly another really strong use case is actually reaching out in that extra TLC or candidate care that happens while somebody is out to work or beginning their new assignment. This is often where, when I speak to recruiters, they have all the best intentions, but when they have hundreds of people out at work, certain balls just get dropped, and not intentionally, but when you have so many competing priorities, it just makes it very difficult. This is where Sense can come in and take those steps off the plate and let you be the recruiters you want to be, because we're sending it on your behalf. So in this case, you're seeing our touch points. They're all related to the individual being placed. And since we have all the data coming through from your system, such as start dates, end dates, and so on, we can actually have a tailored approach to the communication. So 5 days or whatever timeline you have, 5 days before, I want to send a quick congratulations email or text message. Perhaps I want to reach out to the client as well associated to that placement. Internally, I can even remind my team to make a first day call. So we can pull in fields such as an individual's name, title, mobile number, email, whatever you need to make that a successful first day call for your team. Think of this as a task list that gets emailed to you and right in your inbox. No longer do you need to put reminders on your own calendar or Post-its or all of those other types of methods that people are typically using. So we can reach out to different components and different entities right from the same communication thread. And then, of course, all those high-level touch points, right? 7 days in, I want to see how they're doing. Perhaps I want to, they've been working for quite some time, and I want to reach out about their brand recognition and the NPS. So from there, you're going to be able to have that branching we talked about and our survey being dynamic. But let's say that they had a less than stellar experience. In that case, we can just certainly ask what we could have done better. All of this can be flagged in our analytics as well. So on keywords, so that it's not going into a black hole of thanks for the information, but we didn't do anything with it. It's actually going to the individual who needs to take action. And on the flip side, let's say they had an awesome experience. In the spirit of capitalizing on that timing, what we can do is actually redirect and help drive recognition on those social media pages and drive reviews that you may be lacking, or you ask periodically for, but not on a consistent basis. This is going to remind those people who are having a good experience to write that review. And, we can go on and on with Engage, but I want to hand it back to Pankaj for our next steps here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Maria. And, hopefully what you've seen here is just giving you a quick taste of everything that you can do with Engage. There is really no limit to the number of automations you can build. We literally walked you through a partial couple of touch points in just one of the flows, but you can create hundreds of these different flows. When you work with Sense, we literally hand you an a la carte menu of things that you can do with it. We have hundreds of journeys that are completely built out with content already written out. So none of this is a heavy lift on your end. We actually do all of this for you. We build all the journeys, we test all the journeys, and you simply act as a consultant telling us what your wish list is. Hand in hand with that, obviously, let's talk about automated text messaging. How exactly can you reach out to your candidates one-on-one, one-to-many, make sure all of this information still gets stored within your applicant tracking system? So just in the interest of time, I'll quickly pass this back on to Maria as well to spend 3-4 minutes and walk you guys through messaging.
Thank you so much. So messaging is the area that your team and your recruiters are going to be using on a day-to-day basis. Here, I've pulled up a database, and on the right-hand side, you're going to see this icon here. I've expanded it, but it is just a Chrome extension that will follow you from page to page so that you can stay engaged with your candidates or contacts as you communicate and do other things in your role. When I pop this open, you're going to see your current conversations. One other thing I want to mention is that you're looking at this from a computer screen. But we also have a mobile app available so that you can continue texting even if you're away from your desk. So it makes it really quick and easy to not lose any beats as you go through your day. On the left-hand side, you're going to see your current conversations with individuals, and in the center, you're going to see the conversation thread with a single conversation that you're having. On the left, far left, you're going to see your candidate pool, and any conversations that you are having with individuals will automatically be logged in that system under the candidate record, typically in a notes or messages area. This is going to eliminate that problem where maybe you have some turnover and people were texting or communicating from their personal devices and forgot to log the notes, or aren't consistent with logging their notes in general. This is going to give everybody the visibility they need without the worry and added headache of remembering one more thing to do. You may notice that the conversation thread here is fairly colorful. This is intentional for your recruiters to understand what type of message is being sent out. Anything in blue is ad hoc. I typed it up just like I would any other text message, and I went ahead and sent it. Anything in gray is the recipient responding. Purple is actually a broadcast. I sent that message one to many. So as people engage with me, they fall into an individual conversation. This is really important to be able to do so by sending out many messages at the same time. Perhaps you have a job that you need quick filling, or you're looking at a hot list and you want to reach out to those candidates right away about something. We can go ahead and send that as needed. Anything in green is actually our automation. So this is one of those levers that we can pull in our Engage platform, as I showed right before this. So if we were sending a text message, we want to send it from your team's number. So as I'm sending an automated message, it falls in line with the existing conversation I have with this individual, letting your recruiters and your team to pick up where that automation leaves off, making it seamless to the candidate. And then you may notice some other pieces of communication here internally. So this is going to show you if a colleague of yours is also speaking to the same individual. This is called conversational context, allowing you to have a 360 view to your communication strategy, both from automation, from mass texts, ad hoc, as well as even other people in your team. So when I click on the view button near a conversation, it will pop up the conversation that was sent to that individual. I can see whether that was impeding on what I was doing or if we're stepping on each other's toes, and we can have a direct conversation. But if it's nothing that is bothering me, I can go ahead and continue on. We can send emojis and GIFs and all that fun stuff. But what's more important is that you can schedule messages to be sent later if perhaps you're working early in the morning and you want to send something out over lunchtime. We can also use templates, so your team could create their own templates and add in whatever they need to make it dynamic. And then finally, we can also include that scheduling link. So that calendar request, maybe I'm having a great conversation with somebody, and instead of going through the rigmarole of, are you free at 2 or 3 or 4, we can go ahead and send out that scheduling link. They can pick the time that works for them. And finally, as I pull this out, on the right-hand side, this bowling alley will load, and you're going to see your upcoming and recent automations and communications that were sent out. So again, really feeding into that 360 view of your communication strategy as a whole, so that you can pick up where all the automation leaves off.
Awesome. And Maria, while you have the platform open,
Yep.
Let's spend the next 3-4 minutes and just walk through some of the analytics.
Absolutely.
Just for our listeners, we could spend an entire hour just talking about Sense Analytics, but let's give you a quick 2-minute rundown on how every marketing grade analytics and every single thing that you want to track within your ATS can be tracked within Sense.
Absolutely. So what I've opened up is our analytics platform here, right in the Sense admin side. This is going to give you overview metrics from delivery rates to open rates of emails. So your marketing team is going to be very happy understanding the success of all of the communication that's being sent, because it's great to be able to send it, but it's even more important to understand if it's being successful. We can also track your conversion summary for those call to actions as we go through, and even your bounce rate. So unfortunately, that's going to happen, but that's going to give you visibility into maybe that you don't have a lot of data integrity, and where you can use maybe chatbots or other levers to improve that and gather the information that you're missing. From there, we also have our performance metrics. This is going to be what your CEOs are going to want to see. So at the top, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and show you how Sense is delivering ROI. Are you getting the return that you are hoping to with Sense? Through here, you're also going to be able to see your active placements. So who is on first time versus second and third and fourth time placements? So are you driving that redeployment? And on that same topic, we're going to also help you manage your redeployment rate. So here you're going to be able to see and take a look at those KPIs so that you can hopefully be driving towards that 100% or even higher redeployment rates across the board, month over month. And finally, at the bottom here, we're going to show you, how many people are reached through Sense, average length of assignment, and other key components that are going to be important to you to making a decision on your day-to-day operations. Some additional metrics that might be useful for your ops team are going to be related to our surveys or our NPS. Here we can drive and show you results. We can also manage all of the responses. So if you're having a QBR with a customer, now you have key metrics and key responses that are being sent specific to that customer or specific to your organization that you can share with them, rather than just coming up with those ideas that are true, but you don't have the proof to show them. This is going to allow you, and any of our documentation and metrics that you're going to see here can be filtered. So based on the ATS field. So for example, if I want to filter all of my results on a particular client, I can do so that I'm giving tailored responses and not just generalizations. And of course, we're going to see our chatbot metrics showing you, any drop-off rates for a chatbot. So what's successful, what's not, maybe a question is kind of worded a little offbeat. Maybe we need to change that and course correct as we see fit. And then of course, we can also, I mentioned this earlier, but flag on keywords. So flagged responses or all responses to surveys and communication sent out will be aggregated here so that you can filter and see visibility, in addition to being emailed and logged in the database for you. Finally, you also get your delivery history. So again, this is for your marketing team, being able to see those opened, unopened, bounce rates, and so on. We can go on and on, but we have a lot here. I'm going to hand it back over to Pankaj and to really finish us off on the presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Appreciate it. And I just wanted to leave all of you with this last slide that shows you an overall view of the product itself. On the left-hand side, you're seeing 6 different products that Sense has that work seamlessly and are integrated with each other to create one single experience and the system of engagement that we have now designed. And then on the top, from left to right, you're essentially seeing what your candidate life cycle looks like, right from sourcing and attracting people to redeploying them and then coming back over there. So more than happy to answer questions. If you go to the next slide, Maria, that'll give you email addresses of both Maria and I. Like I said, this presentation would be distributed as well as the recording. So please feel free to reach back out to us if you have questions. Please feel free to reach back out if you want to take a deeper look into any one of the aspects of sense. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for giving us this time. We appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thank you.